Hey everyone, Adam at Media here, and today I'm going to be reviewing a tripod that I've had, used, and deeply loved for over a decade. The Miller DS10 aluminum tripod. Today's video is not only a review, it's also kind of a love story. I've had this tripod longer than I've known my wife, and it does everything.
I heard that!
Jokes aside, this tripod is amazing, and while I know there are newer, lighter, and cheaper models out there, I wanted to give you my thoughts on this tripod after a decade of using it almost daily, because I can only assume that the newer Miller ones are even better built and will last even longer. In this review, we're going to be going over the entire tripod, which includes the legs and the head. So let's get into it. This thing is a beast. I am admittedly really hard on my gear. When you're doing freelance work day in and day out, you need gear that can take abuse and still function properly. And this tripod can certainly take abuse. In a lot of scenarios, I don't have the time to carefully handle things like my tripod, and it's really nice to know that with the Miller DS10, that's okay. And this goes for both the legs and the head. Each of them has taken a ton of abuse, and I joke about this a lot, but I tell people that this tripod might actually outlast me with how durable it is. The legs are aluminum with plastic rubbery feet and some metal spikes at the bottom. Each of the leg segments is locked and unlocked with these ridged plastic locks. Even though they're plastic, they seem to be really heavy duty, and I've never had any issues with them. And they are arguably one of the movable pieces that are most used on this tripod. The top segment of each leg is covered with a nice padded sleeve. This makes carrying it easier, especially in colder weather, so you aren't grabbing onto bare metal. This padding has held up really well, and there are only a few tiny little nicks in mine even after 10 years. At the top of the legs, you've got some locks that control how wide your tripod legs can spread. These are metal as well. These legs have a 75mm bowl at the top that's made entirely out of metal too. The head itself is entirely metal with the exception of a few plastic knobs. The handle is covered in a rubbery grip that 10 years in has yet to show any real signs of wear. The knobs, while mostly plastic, are the same heavy-duty plastic that the leg section twist locks are made out of, so they are plenty strong. You can see all sorts of cosmetic dings and scratches and stuff on my tripod from years of heavy use, and while it's not as shiny and new as it once was, it's still in perfect working condition. Miller tripods are insanely easy to use. The DS10 with the aluminum legs folds up to about 33 inches or 84 centimeters. The legs can get secured for travel with the small adjustable strap near the bottom of one of them. Now this is really handy because it allows you to carry around the tripod without one of the legs coming loose and bumping into you or even damaging something. The tripod handle can get loosened and positioned flat against the legs for easier travel as well. The top height of the tripod when set up is just around 69.5 inches, which is just under 6 feet or right around 176 centimeters for those on the metric system. So fairly good size for most of your needs. All three legs have these spikes on the bottom that you can quickly access by twisting the feet. These are great for scenarios that you might need the tripod to be a little bit more secured, like if you're filming outside on the ground or on a softer surface. Now truthfully, I don't use these a lot, but they're really handy to have in a pinch. The legs pivot out a reasonable amount to keep the tripod steady, but when you pull up on the leg locks, you can then move them out even further. Simply push them back in until the lock clicks back into place to return them to normal. I like to swing the legs out a bit wider for things like time lapses so that the entire rig is a bit more sturdy. You do have to push the legs back in a little to get the lock to pull out, which can be a mild irritant since you can't just pull them out. But I'm guessing this is so the lock doesn't get pulled out on accident during use and one of the tripod legs slips out. With the legs spread all the way out without being extended, you can get as low as about 14.5 inches. Moving up the tripod.
I choose you.
The fluid head on this tripod is the pinnacle of the entire thing in my opinion. The Miller DS10 is fairly easy to get level right out of the gate, but like with most pro level tripods, the half ball system with the built-in level allows you to quickly and effectively level the tripod head. Underneath the head where the legs meet, there's a larger knob that when turned will loosen the hold and you can adjust it until it's perfectly level. This is a must-have when you need to quickly and efficiently get your camera level. You can adjust the legs to your desired height and then dial in the level with the ball head. This is a true fluid head, meaning you get buttery smooth motion when panning or tilting, which is an absolute game changer once you use a tripod with a fluid head. Friction heads are going to seem miserable in comparison after you use something like this. There's a spot on either side for mounting the handle, so even if you're some weirdo that uses your left hand, you can still operate this tripod easily. The handle itself is easy to use, and with the flip of the locking knob, you can adjust it up and down or side to side so that no matter what angle you're filming, you retain control of your rig. The handle itself is secured with a pretty common toothed rosette connection, so once locked down, there's no chance of it slipping or moving while you're operating the camera. The end of the handle is covered with a soft textured rubber grip. Even with years of use, this has held up incredibly well, and the only thing I've noticed is the texture has worn down just a little bit. On the front, there's a pan lock that's easily accessible and won't shake the tripod when you lock it. So while operating the tripod, you can unlock, pan, and lock again without any shaky shots. Here on the left-hand side lives the tilt lock. This is essentially the exact same as the pan lock, so you can lock and unlock the ability to tilt while filming without any issues. There are 4 knobs on the right-hand side. At the bottom, we have the drag adjustment for panning, so you can adjust how much friction there is while you're panning. This essentially just makes it harder or easier to pan your shot based on how much you adjust the drag. Moving up, there's the counterbalance knob, which gives you 2 settings for counterbalancing your rig based on weight. So if your rig is on the heavier end of the acceptable payload, which I believe is around 11 pounds or about 5 kilograms, you would have to set it at 2. And if you were doing something with a lighter rig, you would want to set it at 1. Now, truthfully, I've only had this set on 2 for literally a few years now, and I've never had any issues regardless of what size rig I'm using. Above that is the tilt drag, which, like the pan drag, simply adjusts how much friction there is when you tilt. Now, this is something I adjust from time to time based on how front heavy my rig is. So if I have a larger lens and a matte box and some other stuff, I usually tighten this a bit so my rig doesn't want to tilt forward as easily when I unlock this. And then here at the top is your tripod plate lock knob. When your tripod plate is unlocked, you can push in on the one final knob here on the back just under the plate to release the plate, which then slides out the back of the quick release mount. The DS10 comes with a proprietary Miller tripod plate that slides in, and one of the best parts about this entire tripod is that the plate cannot slide out once it's clicked in, even if it's unlocked. Will it scare the shit out of you seeing your camera slide forward or backward suddenly? Yes. Will you need to calm yourself down with a swig from your secret on-set flask? Absolutely. Will your camera fall out? Not a chance. The tripod plate itself is fully metal with some rubber grippy texture at the top to help keep your camera safe and secure when you attach it. And it has multiple mounting holes, so regardless of what camera you're using, you'll have a way to mount it securely. Every single aspect of this tripod has been designed with users in mind, and particularly those of us who need a reliable, durable tripod to use day in and day out on shoots. From the controls on the fluid head to the easily adjustable legs and everything in between, I have been so seriously impressed with this tripod for the last decade. I've used this tripod in both extreme cold and extreme heat conditions with no noticeable effect, but I assume if you got cold enough, the fluid head would actually freeze. Now, one of the big downsides to a pro tripod is the weight. This tripod weighs in at over just 10 pounds. Compare that to something like the ultralight Peak Design travel tripod that weighs a mere 3.5 pounds, and this tripod feels heavy because it is. This is a heavy tripod, and carrying it around for an entire day or two, or lugging it between just a couple of locations, will be a workout in and of itself. Now, I know they have some lighter versions out now, but they are still going to be a bit hefty compared to some of the other tripod options that you have. You might notice that I actually have an Arcus Swiss plate here on the top. Several years ago, I wanted to modify all my tripods and camera mounts to be universal, and while I like the Miller QR plate and mounting system, the plates alone were like $75 at the time. They're just around $55 or $56 US right now though. But anyway, I was able to get an entire Arcus Swiss ecosystem installed on all of my stuff for under $50, so I went with that route. The proprietary Miller QR plate system is great and is as well built as the rest of it. Miller tripods are not known for being the cheap options, and for good reason. These are pro-level tripods that will last you a long time. I paid nearly $1,200 US for this tripod back in August of 2010, and I don't expect to need another tripod like this one for maybe another 10 years even, if not longer. Now, these tripods are hefty in weight and price tag, but you certainly get what you pay for with a Miller tripod. So if you're in the market for a high-end professional tripod with a fluid head that's easy to use and will last you a long time, I'd really urge you to consider a Miller for your next tripod. Now, if you have any questions about this tripod or want to know more, just drop us a line in the comment section below. If you want more content just like this, be sure to subscribe, find us on your favorite social media platforms, and as always, thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I will see you next time.